Okay, it being 5 p.m., the Lafourche Parish Council meeting of September 22nd, 2020 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please do roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Adams. Mr. Grove. Mr. Melvin. Mr. Wendell. Mr. Perilou. Mr. Otan.
Here.
Ms. Boudreau. Mr. Lorraine. And Mr. Shessel.
Thank you, Ms. Carleen. So we have a full house. Everyone's in attendance tonight, which make my job a little easier. If everyone would please rise, we'll be led by the invocation by Mr. Mike Grove, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Jim Wendell.
We're going to recite the Lord's Prayer. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to remind everyone to please put your phones on silence or mute, since I forgot myself. With that said, I'll just mention briefly that anyone who does come up to the mic to address the council, you are more than welcome to drop your mask so we can hear you a little better, a little clearer. Okay, with that said, item A, approval of minutes. At this time, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the September 8, 2020 regular session. So moved by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas and 0 nays. Item B, Lafourche Parish Outstanding Citizen. I'll turn it over to Mr. Perilou at this time.
All right. I think Mr. Stock just arrived. How you doing, sir? All right, so we're going to present the Lafourche Parish Outstanding Citizen Award to Thibodeau Regional Health System. Thibodeau Regional Health System has spearheaded a project to donate and install playground equipment to 9 Lafourche Parish schools. The playground equipment will prompt students to lead a more active and healthy life and will contribute to the fight against childhood obesity. As a result of the generosity of Thibodeau Regional, will improve the overall health and wellness of the youth of Lafourche Parish. The following schools have received playground equipment: Bayou Blue Elementary, Golden Meadow Elementary, Galliano Elementary, Bayou Buff Elementary, Lockport Upper Elementary, South LaRose Elementary. I never heard of it. I thought it was LCO. Chack Bay Elementary, Raceland Elementary, Upper and Lower. On behalf of Grateful Parish, it is our honor to recognize the contributions of Thibodeau Regional Health System and their community-friendly focus under leadership of Mr. Greg Stock.
Mr. Stock, you're welcome to make a statement if you like at the mic. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. You're welcome to. You're not obligated to. No one Most don't usually, but you're certainly welcome to. I know you like to speak. Just make sure the mic's on, and if you don't mind, Mrs. Stock, just state your name, your address for the record, and make sure the mic's on, the little switch. Can y'all hear it? No.
How about now? Does that work? How long do you want me to speak now? Just kidding. Look, really, sincerely, to all of you, it's a privilege to be recognized for this important little effort. I think it's not little in the sense of somebody once said, as a twig is bent, so grows a tree. And so with hospitals, we see the downstream effects, and we know that it could be better. And so we're trying hard to make a difference, and we really appreciate the superintendent of schools, all of you, for your support in this effort, and hope that we can do more in the future. Thank you very much.
Very good. Once again, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Move to item C, proclamation. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Corey, go ahead and make a statement.
No, before we move on, Nooney, I just wanted to recognize as well, Thibodeau Regional Health System did spearhead this thing, but there was other contributors to the playground equipment. I know Valentine Chemical was a big contributor to, so thank you as well to Valentine Chemical for their contribution in that.
Absolutely. It was a group effort and some really nice equipment, and the kids were very happy about it, so great. Very, very good. And I know we got a community center coming up down the road that probably can use some playground equipment here shortly. With that said, item C, proclamation. Number 2, proclamation proclaiming the week of September 17th through 22nd, 2020 as Constitution Week. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas our founding fathers, in order to secure the blessings of liberty for themselves and their prosperity, did ordain and establish a Constitution for the United States of America. And whereas it is of great importance that all citizens fully understand the provisions and principles contained in the Constitution in order to effectively support, preserve, and defend itself against all enemies. And whereas the 233rd anniversary of the signing of the Constitution provides a historic opportunity for all Americans to remember the achievements of the framers of the Constitution and the rights, privileges, and responsibilities they afford us in this unique document. And whereas this proclamation was issued at the request and in conjunction with the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, Bayou Lafourche Chapter, Thibodaux, Louisiana. And whereas the independence guaranteed to American citizens, whether by birth or naturalization, should be celebrated by appropriate ceremonies and activities during Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd, as designated by the President of the United States and in accordance with Public Bid Law 915. And now therefore, I, Archie Chesson III, Parish President of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, on behalf of Lafourche Parish, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd, 2020 as Constitution Week in the Parish of Lafourche, and I'll urge citizens to reflect the week and the many benefits that our federal Constitution and the privileges and responsibilities of American citizenship. Now a witness thereof, I do set unto my signature and have caused the official seal of the Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana on the 22nd day of September 2020. I don't believe anybody from the American Revolution is here, but we'll make sure they get a copy of this.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President. Item D, presentations and/or updates. I don't think we have anything. Actually, yeah, at this time it'd be great. Ms. Barrow, we'll allow you to address at this time for presentations and/or updates, so you can give us an update on where you'll stand with the extraordinary session.
Thank you, sir. Beryl Amade, State Representative for District 51, 302 School Street, Houma. I was hoping today to let you all know that the legislature, for the second time, has called itself into special session. It's going to begin on Monday and run for 30 days. The session call is 5 pages long, and it contains 70 items, which might be a record. I didn't ask, but it does seem rather long. But really, if you group together a lot of the call items, it's easier to understand. But I wanted to let you know that the items in the call are focused on health emergencies primarily. Everything from legislative power to executive branch power to local government power under health emergencies specifically. There's an item that says that the MFP could be adjusted. If you remember, after past hurricanes, the MFP had to be adjusted due to extreme damage of schools. And while our area was saved from recent hurricanes, thank God, there are some other parishes in the state that have severe damage. And so it looks like we're going to have to make some adjustments so that they can somehow continue with school and hopefully see the seniors graduate on time. You remember those difficulties. There are a few items that deal with elections, especially during emergencies. And there are many items that deal with the budget, everything from the issuance of bonds after catastrophe to just generally appropriations and capital outlay adjustments that may need to be made. Also, the unemployment trust fund. With the extension of time and the expansion of dollars that have been going out for unemployment claims due to COVID, the trust fund is really in danger. And we've already applied to the federal government to borrow money, interest-free, but we still have to pay it back eventually, to supplement that trust fund. And so we'll be able to legislate, if needed, in regards to the trust fund. Also, there are specific provisions for the many things that the public has been really crying out about. A lot of the difficulties we've been having with certain specific detailed mandates under the health emergency, such as high school athletics and nursing home visitation policies. As you might have noticed, last Thursday evening, CMS issued new guidance on nursing home visitation, but we have to get the Department of Health and the state health officer and everybody on the same page. In some areas of the state, nursing home visits have already begun, but in other areas, they have not. And it seems that the information that has to come from the state to the nursing homes has not funneled down across the board yet. So we're still having some difficulties in the nursing homes themselves, understanding what the guidance says that applies to them specifically. So we're working on that. Once we're in session, hopefully we can see some legislation so that we don't face these same difficulties again with long-term separation of families, loved ones. Also, there will be a few items that deal with tax incentives for businesses. Hopefully we can find some help to offer relief to small business, big business, all the businesses, especially those in industries that have been shut down for the most part these last almost 7 months. And also the housing and rental assistance issues and evictions. We will need to revisit the laws there so we don't have the same turmoil that we currently have. So that's the special session call. And I know that this is one part of a multi-pronged effort that the Speaker and the Senate President are working on to put the state back in proper working order and to amend laws where needed so that we don't have to go through such extreme difficulties again should we face another health emergency or any other long-term emergency situation. Another prong is, of course, a petition. The last time I was here, I mentioned a petition that got nicknamed the CBAW petition, and I had said that I would send you copies, but almost immediately it became outdated, so I had not. So what I wanted to let you know is that the petitions have gone through several revisions. There is another petition that will be brought on Monday, our first day of special session. And when you hear about that one, I want you to know that it is very similar to the CBAW petition, except that it has a whole lot more of the list of all of the proclamations that have been issued, because they have really expanded over these few months. And it also would state that the governor would not declare another COVID health emergency for 14 days. The CBAW petition originally said 60 days, and that gave some members a lot of angst. The other issues with the petitions that have been talked about are that if we would, by petition in the health emergencies, that it would somehow prohibit the governor from issuing any state of emergency should we face a hurricane, a flood, or any other peril. And that is not true. The petitions are specific to the COVID health emergency. Another issue was that by removing the emergency, that it would also remove the liability protections that we passed during the regular and the special session. And while Act 9 that we passed was specific to emergency situations. There was another act that was passed, I forget the number, but it was by Representative Presley in the regular session that is not related to being under a state of emergency. So those liability protections would remain. Then the last issue was funding. There was a question of whether funding, relief funding, would disappear if we did away with the state of emergency. And it would not, because the President himself issued a proclamation early on, I think it was second week of March, if I remember right, and he issued that specifically so that even if a state does not issue their own state of emergency, federal relief dollars could still flow to the state. And so the federal relief money would not disappear. At the state level, the state does not need an emergency proclamation in order to send money to the locals. So the legislature can do that at the will of the legislature anyway. So if there is funding, Mike's going in and out, if there is any funding directly related to an emergency, the state can still send funding to parish and local governments if needed without an emergency. So those fears, I hope, are relieved with that understanding. I don't know whether we will have the majority signatures that we would need on any particular petition, but we will be in session starting Monday where we'll all be together so we can move forward much more quickly on whatever measures we decide to take. The legislature has the authority to legislate, which we can only do while we're in session. The legislature has the authority to petition, which we can do at any time of year, whether we're in session or not. And the third remedy for an emergency that has gone on very long that people would want to overturn would be lawsuits. I don't know the specifics about lawsuits, but I do know that they take a long time, and lawyers deal with that. So we'll be going into session on Monday. We're drafting bills this week. We can... Oh, sure. Okay. It's still working at the moment. We're going to go in session on Monday, and we'll be drafting bills all this week and next week, and probably for about 2 weeks into the session.
They don't last very long. Seems like we're always changing those batteries. I don't know if it didn't get turned off at the end of the meetings or what. Yeah. I'd like to remind if anyone is wishing to address the council, you can fill out a blue sheet at the door and bring it up to the council clerk, or just bring it up somewhere up here and we'll grab it. Missing batteries? Different batteries or different mic?
You want to finish talking in mine?
No, just hang on 1 second, Beryl. We'll be all right. Just give 1 second. Different mic, something with the mic. No, hang tight. Yeah, if you're gonna pass out, we need to just make sure one gets to the council clerk for the minutes.
There you go, Mr.
Test 1, 2. All right. Okay. I would say the worst batteries I know of are hearing aid batteries. They seem to last 3 days, which is not the batteries? It was the mic? Okay. Good. Technology. My friend. Maybe it's wiring. Okay, before it goes out completely, I just wanted to finish by saying we're going in session on Monday. We'll be drafting bills this week, next week, possibly 2 weeks in. Eventually, during the session, we'll run out of time for a bill to make its way all the way through the process. So if you have anything specific to Lafourche Parish that you'd like me to present, get with me really soon so we can draft that. Thank you.
Thank you, Beryl, for coming and addressing us. Does anyone have any questions for Beryl? One time, two times, none? Well, once again, thank you for coming and update us. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I hope to come back after and let you know what we got done.
Very good. So with that said, I don't think we have any other presentations and or updates, correct, Ms. Carleen? So the next item on the agenda is item E. However, that has to take place at 6 p.m. So at this time, I guess I'll entertain a motion to deviate from the agenda. So moved by Mr. Gross, second by Mr. Melvin, that we go directly to item F. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas. Item F, engineers, architect reports. Saw a couple walk in the office. Okay, here we go. Just remember state name and address for the record.
Craig Como with Baroque and Benora Engineers and Consultants, 209 Canal Street. Once again, I've provided 2 different reports, the PowerPoint presentation as well as a single-page report. As you can see on a couple of the projects, we've had no changes since the last update, so I'll focus on the ones that do have changes. The first is the FMA 2016 home elevation project. This is one where there are 7 properties. We had a homeowner who was recently made a decision to move forward with that project. GOSEP had extended the grant on that project for an additional year, and the homeowner selected that contractor on September 10th, and the contractor was issued a notice to proceed on the engineering on September 14th. The other project I'm going to provide a little bit of an update on is on the 2020 FEMA Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant application process. At the last council meeting that I presented at, Councilman Grow asked the question about how many NFI communities are there in the United States, and that number is a little over 22,000 NFIP communities. As you know, and has been presented before, is in order to be eligible for this grant program, the community must have a hazard mitigation plan.
Mr. Chairman, our communications director right here would like to know if we could just take a break, let him shut everything down, pull it back up to see if we can get it working.
Very good. I entertain a motion to take a 10-minute recess. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Pearl. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Grants, and these are specifically the grants for the elevation of individual homes. A community has to have a hazard mitigation plan, which is 20,700 plus communities. Now, where does Lafourche fit into that mix? Lafourche has a roughly 65 severe repetitive loss structures in its inventory. These are the properties that would be eligible to have their house elevated at 100% federal cost share, meaning FEMA would pay 100% of the value of that elevation. There are 400 properties in Lafourche Parish that meet the repetitive loss structure definition. These are the properties where FEMA would pay 90% of the cost to elevate a home. In this parish, there are over 12,000 insured structures. Now, how does that fit into the mix of the dollars that are available? Because this is a competitive grant program. First of all, last year we had mentioned in a previous meeting that the state of Louisiana received roughly 50% of all dollars that were allocated. The 5 parishes of St. Charles, Lafourche, Terrebonne, Jefferson, and Orleans Parish received 25% of the dollars that were awarded nationwide last year. So while it seems like it would be a large hurdle to overcome, Lafourche Parish has been successful at getting these grants in past years. So right now, when we look at how many homeowners have actually submitted applications for the grant program, can you advance it to the next slide? The remote's not currently working. There. So right now we're sitting at 5 applications received. So that means of those property owners, roughly the 465 that are eligible for an advanced cost share, as well as those over 12,000 that are eligible for participation in this grant program, we've only received 5 applications to date. Again, we've talked about this, who should apply. It's those that have at least 2 flood insurance claims paid by the NFIP and have active flood insurance policies, and they need to contact the grant office in Lionel Lagarde. Any questions?
Anyone has any questions? There being none, we appreciate it. Any other engineers, architect reports? Now, don't forget to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Heather Klingman with Duplantis Design Group, 314 East Bayou Road. Yeah. When one thing goes wrong, they all go wrong, right? Okay, so first project, a couple of projects, going to be the hazard mitigation project. So Timberland Pump Station, FEMA is actually in the process of reviewing the additional funding request. They had actually submitted some questions to us, which in my book, yay, it means they're looking at it finally. So we're kind of going through that process right now. We're talking to them about doing some things to kind of change up a few items that might help reduce the pricing, or the cost of the project. That way, it might help kind of move this thing along to get funded. So that's in process. Parish-wide pump station project, kind of around the same idea. In meeting with staff, with Dylan, we kind of went through the scope of this project and look at it with in relation to things that the levy district's doing, just to kind of make sure that there's not anything we're doing now that would, be in conflict with things that the levy district would do down the line on some of these pump stations. So we've kind of tweaked the scope a little bit. I think it might actually reduce some of the costs a little bit. Sent that to FEMA. They're reviewing that right now. Same thing, kind of exact same thing with the Layton Pump Station. They're reviewing kind of some tweaks to the scope of work that we had discussed with Dylan, so hopefully that'll kind of get moving along. Community Center is done, substantially complete, so I think there's a ribbon cutting tomorrow. So that project is completed. We are looking at some layouts on some of the recreation stuff at the back. We're working on that right now. But as far as the community center itself goes, that is substantially complete. Streetlight permitting, this is the last list of locations that we did permit requests for, and we actually did the permits and we submitted them to staff, so those are completed. Thibodeau Library renovations, the work on the exterior envelope is just about completed. And contractors should start soon on working on the connector corridor between the old building and the new building. Coastal Center schematic design phase is just about wrapped up. Final building and site designs are in progress, and once that's done, we're going to present those to the task force committee. And then Nichols and the building committee are currently working on the RFP for an exhibit designer and then potential funding options. And that's it. Any questions?
Anyone has any questions for Ms. Heather? Mr. Adams?
Hey, Ms. Heather, I know a while back we had talked about
Yes.
that Waverly 2 project. Anything going forward with that?
I'm actually meeting with Arthur tomorrow.
Okay.
To talk about, one of the things we're going to talk about is that project
All right,
and
cool.
trying to get some stuff moving forward, look at getting some servitudes.
All right, cool.
And I know Arthur had mentioned that y'all might be possibly looking at some servitudes in that area too, so we'll probably be getting together
Okay.
on that to kind of discuss that in a little bit more
Yeah, 'cause
detail
it
soon.
involves a lot of people and it help out
Yeah.
a lot of people.
It does,
All
it
right,
does.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Anyone else have anything for Ms. Heather? There being none, thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Do we have any other engineers and/or architect reports? That's it? All right. Good. Moves us to item G, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, et cetera. Ms. Carleen?
Ms. Tanya Thiel, if you'd come to the podium. State your name and address for the record, Ms. Thiel, and please remember you have 3 minutes.
I gave you guys all a copy of an email. That's what she's speaking on.
My name is Tanya Thiel. My address is 701 Highway 653 in Raceland. I'm in District 5, Ward 3. Ignoring the tax assessments and paying your fair share. I did miss the deadline for the written appeal due to the recent hurricanes and the constraints that it placed on my job and also the shutdown of the government offices for the same reason. I've been honest and paid my fair share of assessed taxes since building my one-story home in Raceland on Highway 653. Before, and I've paid without complaint. However, this year, my assessment went up $131,400 with just a random assessment. I call it just random, just arbitrary. This increase happened even after the Lafourche Parish Council placed our subdivision in a higher risk zone several years ago. We went from a B flood zone where we were all built above the required flood level. I was 2 feet above. Now I am 6 feet below. If I add on to my house, that floor level has to be 6 feet. It will be at my roof line. But I get added $131,400 in additional market value. Comparable houses in larger houses that are not in flood zones at much less amounts around Raceland, including some very nice houses in the Thibodeau area, do not pay as much taxes as I do. And when I say pay taxes, I am talking about the market value they are assessed. The assessor's office stated that they followed real estate guidelines. However, my real estate appraisal from May 19 was much less due to my home being in Raceland and due to the flood zone. So I ask you, did my house go up in value since 2019? Very doubtful, probably down since our economic climate. In fact, there is a newly constructed house just 4 properties down from mine. She finished in 2019 and had an appraisal. She just recently had it appraised for refinancing for a lower mortgage rate. Her brand new construction went down $36,000 in value. Do you think my 19-year-old house went up $131,400? I went to the assessor's office in August with that appraisal. They would not consider my appraisal because it was more than a year old. Not a problem. They wouldn't provide me when they got the information to change that reassessment. The lady there was very nice. She was in communication with Miss Wendy Thibodeau. And just in conversation, she went back and forth with Miss Thibodeau, and they just randomly reassessed my house. Just put in some numbers and reassessed it. And they dropped it down, but it's still an increase of $39,400.
Mr. Adams relinquishes additional 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Continue, Tanya.
So I did not dispute at the time, and I said I was okay because it was lower than initial assessment, because knowing the person I was going to go and do some research. So I decided to start looking at homes just along Highway 653. On the assessor's website, houses on that same highway that are just a neighborhood street across from mine on the same side that are 2-story, 1.5-story, more square footage than mine and are assessed at less. Some are actually assessed at less than $100,000 than mine, the market value. I contacted the assessor's office on 2 additional occasions. They did not even know that we were in an A6 flood zone. I think that's important. They were going to then reassess it and look at all of them. It didn't happen, never happened. If property is to be reassessed every 4 years, it's obvious if you look at the website, it's not happening. These 5 houses appear to have been targeted. The calculations are arbitrary and capricious. I am paying and have been paying more than my fair share. It's like they're just pulling these assessments out of a crackerjack box, like here's your, this is what you get, here's your, this is what you get. Because all of my neighbors called and the numbers have been changed, but it's still a significant increase when the other properties on Highway 653 have not been increased. I might be too late to appeal my increase, but I'm not too late to bring this public information to the attention of you, the council members of Lafourche Parish, the citizens of Lafourche, and the general population.
You tell me, and you think about that. Do you think a property that went from a flood B zone to an A6 flood zone would have increased in that kind of property value? Is that arbitrary and capricious? Yeah, because they didn't even know it was in a flood zone, side less than A6. Bad faith? Yes. Simpler terms, this is ridiculous, crackerjack box reassessments. I'm paying more than my fair share. So you do the calculations. Over 19 years, I paid $19,000 more than a house that is a year newer than mine, is built almost exactly on mine, is on 0.29 acres less than mine, but has a huge iron panel fence with brick columns that is probably more valuable than my 0.29 acres. So we were given 3 different reasons why they went up. First, they just did a 3% generic increase. Let's see, I was at $296,000. Do that times 3%, is that $131,000 plus? No. Then they used the new construction. My house is 14 years old, can't use new construction. It's not new construction. Then they did a real estate for fair market value. That was their reasoning. Well, guess what? My house didn't appraise for $427,000, because if it did, I wouldn't be here tonight because I'd have sold my house. I didn't sell my house because it didn't appraise for very much.
Mr. Mr. Wendell relinquishes an additional 3 minutes. Ms.
Thank you.
Carleen?
So the other part I'd like to add is there is a house, the house that my house was most closely compared to for my real estate appraisal, which the tax assessor's office tells us they use, is on the North Service Road. That house sold for $335,000 in May 2019. They're paying taxes on a market value of $185,000, $185,400. My neighbor, who had the new construction, was told that we were all reassessed because she went in with an appraisal to get her house, she had a new appraisal. Well, the 5 houses that are just above me on the other side of the neighborhood, they had 2 sales, one in 2015, which was under Ms. Thibodeau's term, one in 2019. Both of those houses were sold. One was sold for $370,000. They're only paying taxes on a value of $341,400. One sold for $363,000. They're paying taxes on $296,700. I just want y'all to be aware. Thank you.
First off, I want to thank you, Tanya, for coming and address the council. When I saw your name, I was like, why was she coming?
Well,
I haven't heard from her since I've been a council member, so I was very interested in knowing, and now I fully understand.
I don't want to offend you and call you by your nicknames. I know you.
Noonie, everybody knows me as Noonie, you're fine.
Okay, Noonie. So Noonie, this started out, my neighbor notified us that all our taxes were going up significantly. I took half a salary. I lost my job because of the economic environment. So my thing is, you live within your means, just like government has to live within their means. With that said, I started looking at this, like, why is my taxes going up? And I actually looked at the website to notify my neighbors that, hey, get ready, all our taxes are going up, like, what's going on? And then when I started looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, these are paying less than me. So let's see, if I owed a tax agency $19,000 over the last 19 years, what would that interest and penalties be like on me? Think about it. I'm not a wealthy person. My husband and I work very hard for what we have. And my house is nice, and it is on a nice piece of property, but we have worked for that, and we did most of the work ourselves. And I shouldn't be penalized when there are houses in very nice neighborhoods on Highway 308 in Thibodaux that are not in you can look it up, look them all up. They are assessed at less than what I was assessed at prior to this ridiculous reassessment. And if I'm too late to appeal, it's fine, but I want the public to know what's going on. It's random.
I thank you for all the numbers, and it's going to make for some interesting reading, I'm sure. And
you all have
certainly, I mean, being on the prairie, as you mentioned, with the flood risk, I know that certainly drives property values down.
Correct.
Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Tanya? Wants to absorb the information? All right. Thank you very much, Tanya. We appreciate it. Ms. Carleen, you have anyone else?
Yes, sir. Ms. Wendy Thibodeau, you'd come to the podium.
So we're at about about 7, 8 minutes from having the open public hearing.
My name is Wendy Thibodeau, Lafourche Parish Assessor, 403 St. Louis Street in Thibodeau. I'm addressing the council right now in regards to the millages. And during tax season and during reassessment especially, I do a lot of internal audits. And one of the internal audits in my office, there was a category of vessels that were in Lafourche Parish that were not coded for reassessment, meaning that when I do my report to submit those numbers to the legislative auditor in order to roll back or roll forward those millages, there was a category of quite substantially high-valued vessels that were not coded for the reassessment report. Therefore, when I was doing the internal audit, my reports weren't balancing, so I went and did a desktop line-by-line item internal investigation on this, and what we found is that there were $48 million worth of vessels in assessed value that should have been included in the reassessment report to the legislative auditor that wasn't. So what I did is, you should have received an email from my staff last week, and I notified the legislative auditor. She reset all of those districts that were affected by watercraft, those $48 million worth of watercraft. And when she reset the millages, I went and put in the new values, including that $48 million. And what it did is, a lot of those districts that had rolled forward, if you remember the last time I was here, we talked about the automatic roll forward. A lot of those districts, there were 29 that were affected by this. Out of those 29, 9 still rolled forward because they took a hit on the watercraft, but the 20 other ones actually rolled back, which is a good thing. So it rolled back. It was a difference of 6.62 mils. So everybody's tax bills they're going to go down, that it's going to be decreased by that much, by 6.62 mils. Now, this is before anybody rolls up or anything like that. So they still have the option to roll forward, but this does help tremendously as far as the taxes go. I just wanted to make y'all aware of it and just explain why that all transpired.
Very good. Mike Brew.
So last meeting when we had to redo all those, or do we
Yes.
have to redo 9 of them?
You have to do 29.
Do you expect?
Oh, well, there was 29 total across the parish. I don't know how many of those y'all oversee.
So in essence,
18
somebody that
of
rolled
these
back.
29? Okay, 18 of the 29.
So in essence, somebody that rolled back still has time to try to roll it up.
Yes, I spoke with the legislative auditor, and nothing is affected by the border review because everything was advertised, everything was on site. It was just a coding error as far as the reporting, the reassessment report goes. So it probably will delay the tax roll being certified on November 15th, but I'm anticipating probably like a week, if that. Everything, all of these numbers have been inputted, sent out to these districts, and all of the districts have been notified. And the only ones that I'm concerned about is here, because y'all have the home rule charter on top of the legislative auditor regulations and the school board. But everybody else will be able to get it to me by November 1st.
Okay. Nothing showed up in the internal audit for the housing
Well, it was the...
assessments when you did your own internal stuff. It was just on.
Well, the thing with the real estate is that it goes by, it's an individual basis. What this is the vessels were assessed and the vessels were on the roll when there is one report that I run for every year for the tax roll, and then there's one report that I run every 4 years to submit to the legislative auditor. There was a category of vessels that were not coded behind whatever the IT guy said, that they were not coded to pull. Instead of adding it to that report, it actually subtracted it.
Very good.
It wasn't the value.
Anyone else have anything for Wendy? There be none. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Ms. Colleen, you have anyone else? Okay, that's it. Looks like we're pretty daggone close to 6 p.m. Couple more minutes. You got 6? Okay, Mike Gross says he has 6 p.m. So let's see. What you said, Ms. Carleen? Yeah. No, I don't want to go into, yeah, well, the problem is that the public hearing is at 6 PM sharp, so if anyone shows up to discuss their item, I can't go into it before that, and I don't want to start ordinances. So with that said, I got a motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones to take a 3-minute break. Good? All in favor, signify by saying aye. We got a motion to reconvene the meeting. So moved by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Perillo. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas. Now I'll entertain a motion to deviate from where we're at in the agenda up to item E, Board of Review. So moved by Mr. Perillo, second by Mr. Wendell. All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes. Item E, Board of Review, public hearing, 6 PM. Motion by Mr. Perillo, second by Mr. Wendell to open public hearing as the Board of Review. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas. Okay, item 3, serving as the Board of Review, the council will hear public comments at this time and protest values of property for assessment purposes fixed by the Lafourche Parish Assessor's Office. So I will explain this to everyone. So what we will do is we will read down the items that are a little further down on your agenda to allow each individual to come up now and state their case. And I also will have 2 from the floor, and I'll also advise which ones have been removed. Once we are done with all the comments, we will close a public hearing, and then we'll move to a vote on each of the appeals as a yea or a nay. Everybody clear on that? Anybody got any questions on how this is going to work? We good? Okay, with that said, the first one that I have is written. We are open. Yeah, we open public hearing. No, that's to close it. Once they are allowed to make their comments, yeah. And then we go beyond that for the vote. All right, everybody good? Clear? All right. The first one is item A, written appeal from Resource Rig Supply Incorporated, assessment / tax bill number 1103284051. Is anyone here from Resource Rig Supply Incorporated? Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record.
So I'm Phyllis Sims with the law firm of Keene Miller representing Resource Rig Supply, and I'm in the Baton Rouge office of Keene Miller. So Resource Rig Supply they rent space at 2 yards, one in Port Fourchon and one in Golden Meadow, and where they keep a lot of their oil and gas equipment and mainly for their stacked rigs. And you can imagine how many stacked rigs there are this time of the year and the pandemic. We have submitted an appeal contesting the value of the equipment, and really this appeal is being filed just to preserve the company's rights to continue to exchange information with Assessor Thibodeau's office to work on providing information to support the value. And so we would just like the opportunity to continue to work with the assessor's office.
Very good. Anyone
and
has
I'll answer any questions.
Anyone has any questions? None? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Ms. Wendy.
Okay, in your packets, the first one is Resource Rigs. Our 2019 fair market value was $55,683,733. The 2020 fair market value increased 29.95% increase, and this is straight off of the tax commission guidelines. Let me see. They asked, the company asked for obsolescence. They requested obsolescence, and how we do obsolescence is we ask for now you got to understand, this value is according to what took place in 2019, where I'm a year behind. In order to get a full 365 days of an assessment, I got to go, in 2020, I'm doing what took place in 2019. So in 2019, in order to give obsolescence, I request a 2018 financial to 2019. Whatever the decrease is, that's when I give, that's how I come up with my obsolescence. Well, if you see in your packet somewhere, there is it's like 4 or 5 pages back. It's from 2018, the operating revenues were $3,018,000, and in 2019, it was $3,088,000. So they actually increased in revenue, and that's why I did not grant obsolescence according to that. The next thing that the company did was submit an appraisal, which I just want to let you know, I got the most recent appraisal at 9:48 this morning, and it's 174 pages long. So I just took out the highlights of the appraisal. In 2019, they submitted an appraisal for a total of $64 million. In 2020, they submitted a new appraisal at $58 million, and the one I received this morning was for $57 million. So we give this equipment an 8-year life, and the closest thing on the tax commission's guidelines, the next highest table item is oil field rental tanks, and that has a 15-year life. We're only giving it an 8-year life, meaning that it's fully depreciated after 8 years. Okay, so that's a good thing for the company. One of the things that stuck out to me on the appraisal that I got this morning is that it said inspection date, and it said because of COVID virus that they were not allowed to conduct an on-site inspection of the assets added since the prior inspection, which was that second appraisal, and that they based their appraisal on conversations with Transocean, and Transocean provided all the necessary pictures and various yards assets. Well, again, I just got this morning. I haven't been able to dive into the specifics of it, which I will, and if I find anything that will generate a decrease, I will, but my first and foremost issue is they didn't even go and look at the yard and the equipment and the inventory and the machinery and equipment. They went by what the company told them. That would be like me in my house hiring an appraiser and saying, don't come to my house. I'm going to tell you everything that's wrong. Here's the pictures, the foundation's wrong, the walls are wrong, and never stepping foot in my house. So that's just an issue that I'm having with the appraisal just from this morning. I am in open discussions with Ms. Sims all the time, and if it generates a decrease, I will give it to them. It's just that I need proof on why I'm decreasing the property as I am.
Very good. Anyone have any questions of Wendy? Go ahead, Mike. Hold on, Miss Wendy.
So even if we pass or deny an appeal, it doesn't matter. I mean, if she comes back with something after this, you're gonna grant them.
Oh, yeah. I do that for everybody, just like the lady that was just up here.
Right.
She didn't,
Okay.
it's just
All
the
right,
future
we got,
discussion.
just stay on this item. But good, thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it. Okay, with that said, we'll move, anyone else have any comments on resource rig supply? Okay, we'll move on to item B. This is a written appeal from Abbey Glen Limited Partnership Assessment, tax bill number 0052810504. At 1:09 p.m. This afternoon, Mr. Daniel Knox of Banyan Property Tax Solutions LLC out of Atlanta, Georgia, sends an email to the Board of Review. I am immunocompromised and considered high risk for COVID-19, and my primary care doctor has advised me to avoid enclosed, densely populated spaces. I have conducted all of my BOE and court hearings remotely via conference call or video conferences, hoping to present the information on Abbey Glen this evening. My request was respectfully declined. This is the reason I'm not attending the Board of Review meeting this evening. Please stay safe and healthy. Thank you. So yesterday, and this is the 8th hour, as you know, yesterday I started getting requests if people could call in and do Zoom, which, as you know, Zoom failed us last time we tried it. Then there was talk of teleconference. Well, this is a public meeting, and you're supposed to go in front of the public, this Board of Review. So I consulted with our district attorney's office, and they stated that they were welcome to send in something written that we could read. So I thought I would get some meat other than just saying I'm not coming. But that they needed to, if they wanted to have any other discussion or answer questions, they needed to be in attendance. So with that said, that's all I have from him. Is that all we have, right, Ms. Carleen? Is a statement. So there's no argument in that. Is anyone here, I'll ask one more time, from Abbey Glen Limited Partnership? If there's none, Ms. Wendy, you do want to make any comments?
Okay, with Abbey Glen, this is not the first time we've been up here with a protest with Abby Glenn. This is the multi-level income housing. And first off, on his protest, he has that the assessed value is $990,000 for the land, and in truth, the land is at $495,000. What happened was, with reassessment in that mass appraisal, his lots were valued at $30,000, just like everybody else's lots in that area. He called and made me aware of that, and what I did was adjust the values. Multi-level income housing has a different process. I have to take the credits off. I can't include that as far as the market value of the property. So it's usually a 50% decrease for multi-level income housing. What I did was, the lots in that area were $30,000. Last reassessment, they were at $20,000. He was at 10, so he's like 50% less than everybody else. So what I did, the lots, the market dictated $30,000, so I adjusted his lots to 15. So his lots actually went from $10,000 a piece to $15,000 a piece. And the improvement, I have no idea where he got the $799 from, but I didn't touch his houses. I wasn't allowed to, being multi-level.
And as I recall, this was a challenge we saw before from
Yes,
him.
sir.
And I remember the argument, similar argument. Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Wendy?
Do you know where exactly this is?
Mr. Wendell?
I'm sorry, exactly where the subdivision is located?
It's Serenity. It's Serenity Drive right behind Abbey.
Okay, thank you.
It's the little houses. It's not like an apartment complex. It's the individual houses.
Yeah, if you search through, you'll see pictures.
Yeah, I got pictures in
The
there.
same ones we had last
Yep, same one.
last review.
Because I never touched the value. I'm not allowed to do that without financial statements and income credits and all kind of other stuff. So just the land increase, that's it.
Very good. Anyone else have any questions of Wendy? Thank you very much. Item C, written appeal from S2 Energy Operating Assessment Tax Bill number 3103325-300. Anyone from S2 Energy Operating in attendance? There being none, Ms. Wendy, you want to comment on that group?
Okay, S2 Energy is TANA. TANA protests every year. What?
Remember.
Yes, okay. They protested every year for the last, I think, 5 years. What it is they have a field with wells, about 300 wells. Their issue is some of the wells are shut in. When they are shut in, they are allowed 90% obsolescence. So whatever the market value is, they only get put on at 10% of the market value. When the well is plugged and abandoned, I am required by law to remove the well. As of Sonorous website, that's the website that monitors and gives the updates and the status of all of the wells, that website says that these wells are shut in. For 5 years now, I have told them that if they wanted me to remove it from the tax roll, to plug and abandon the well. They've not done so. By law, I can't remove it from the tax roll until they do that. The 2015 appeal and the 2016 appeal was ruled in my favor from the Louisiana Tax Commission. It went all the way to that. Every year they file a protest and it goes to the Tax Commission. I'm still waiting for, 15, 16, and 17. So I'm waiting for 18 and 19 right now with the Tax Commission.
Very good. Anyone have any questions of Wendy on this one? There be none. Thank you very much, Wendy. Item D, written appeal from Canium LLC, Assessment Tax Bill number 31033279900. And if I misstated the name of that company, please correct me.
No, Cantium is right. Phyllis
Okay.
Sims again with the law firm of Keen Miller representing Cantium LLC. I will say that first appeal you read off, ending in 7900, has been withdrawn.
So which one was that?
The appeal you just read where Ms. Carleen Babin, yes, that one's been withdrawn.
Okay, so item D has been withdrawn.
Right, correct.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Well, we have the next one.
Wendy, do you have any comments on item D, withdrawn? Okay, very good. Which brings us to item E, written appeal from Canium LLC, Assessment Tax Bill number 31033279904.
Correct. So Cantium is recently a startup oil and gas company. Not a good time to be starting up an oil and gas company, but they did several years ago. And they purchased some assets from Chevron. The majority of those assets are actually in interstate waters, outside of the 3-mile limit. So the leases and then the accompanying, tangible assets were in international waters. The remaining assets are actually offshore, but they are in Louisiana waters. And Cantium actually only has a one-person tax office, and by this year is the time that they started reviewing a lot of things, including the valuation of these assets that were purchased from Chevron. They are continuing to have discussions with the assessor's office and providing requested information. And again, this appeal is being filed just to preserve the company's rights to continue those discussions and provide information to the assessor's office. And the assessor has only recently gotten some information for review. And so they just need a little more time to look at it and continue the dialogue.
Very good. It looks like the percent differential is not as significant. And I apologize for 900. I didn't see the packet in here, so apparently you knew this was pulled early. I just wasn't made aware of it. Because there wasn't a packet. Did y'all see?
Everything that's been withdrawn is not in your packet.
Okay. So we just wait, because all the others have been pulled. This one.
Why? Probably because in my cover letter, I combined them both in one cover letter, so
Very good.
I didn't separate them.
Anyone have any questions? There be none. Thank you very much. Miss Wendy.
Okay. As Ms. Sims said, we were made aware that it is a one-person tax office, and we've been requesting, the original assessment value was put on according to everything that they submitted to us. In the meantime, we've been working with them, asking them for different documentation, itemized lists and so forth, some wells, some details, whether they dual injected or not, and so forth, because everything gets worked up in different ways. As of this morning, we just got some more information and we worked that up, which generated a decrease from 21 million down to, I think, 20 million. Yeah, it's 20 million. So as you can see, we've been working with them, and it's taken a lot of time. It's a lot of wells and it's a lot of equipment and so forth. So we're just working with them, and everything's been going fine, so.
Very good.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you, Wendy. Okay, item F has been withdrawn per email from Mr. Edwin Lamb. Item 4G, 4H, 4I, 4J, 4K, 4L, 4M, 4N, and 4O has also been removed by Mr. Andrew Hall. So you can scratch all those off, which brings us to item P. Yep, matches up. Written appeal from Pittman Ayers LLC and others, assessment tax bill number 01022045500. Is anyone here from Mr. Pittman Ayers LLC? If you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Taylor Darden. I represent, actually this, from New Orleans, Louisiana, with the Carver Darden Law Firm. I've got 3 appeals here, 2 for Pittman Ayers and others, and 1 for the Constantine Group. I have them listed by parcel numbers, last 3 digits being 896 for Pittman Ayers, which includes Pittman Ayers, Saul Ayers, Rock Mill, Terma, and Constantine. And then 500, which includes the same names except Constantine. They're not included in that. And then the last one, 300, which is just Constantine Land Trust.
Yeah, so it'll be the next 3 in a row. And of course, we're always allowed an assessor to comment on each individual one. So if you don't mind, let's do 500 first.
500, okay. The problem we have with 500 is that there is really no particular description of the property. Here's the GLO, and I have this for the council. This is the GLO for these properties, and highlighted in yellow are the tracts that the Pittman people bought probably before the turn of the century, or certainly last century before last, 1800s. And without a proper description, I can't tell what property is located on this property. I mean, the assessor, Miss Wendy, has property valued at something on the order of a total at $2.6 million, improvements valued at $2.4 million, and the land, the raw land improved, are assessed at $234,000. Without an identification of what's on this property, I can't tell whether the assessment is proper, improper. Now, we actually met with Ms. Thibodeau and tried to resolve some of this. I'd like to keep those conversations open if possible. We filed this appeal. My letter was dated September 14th. The appeal was filed the next day, so I really didn't have time to meet with her. But we asked her for specific identification of the improvements that are on those properties that support these assessments on the order of $2.5 million or $234,000 for the land. So that's the problem we have with it. It's an identification of the property together with description of what improvements, if any, are located on the particular pieces of property being assessed. And without that, I noticed the form asked, give me an estimate of what we think the property is, should be taxed at. Without having that base information, I can't tell the council or the board of review what the assessment should be. Now, when we get into the other two, it's my view that they are overassessed. We have furnished Ms. Wendy a copy of an appraisal that was done on the property. She refused to recognize that. I also have Mr. Truax here to address some of the fair market value assessments on those other. But as for 500, it simply is, I need an identification of what's on the property and which property she's talking about.
So point of reference, the 4,500 one, this is the one that's a $21,700 fair market value. So this must be a little bitty piece of land. Matter of fact, it says salt marsh. So this is a very small amount of just land, and it's only at $21,700. But what you're saying is you can't. Go ahead.
Are we talking about 500?
Yes, sir.
No, she's got it, $234,000 for the
No, we're
land.
looking at different information.
$2.4 million for the improvement.
This, if you like, you can look at what we have. I don't know, there's somewhere we've got a differential. Yeah, so this parcel,
That's 500, right?
parcel number 01022045000, the summation on this one is that this parcel contains 361 acres of land.
That's it?
341 of the 361 acres are assessed as salt marsh.
That's correct. And then
So that's the one we're discussing right now, and only that one right now.
That is, and that's right. And then for miscellaneous land, she has it at 240,000, fair market value at 234,000. And then she's
Okay.
got two improvements totaling over $2 million.
Yeah, I'm not, so we don't, right now, we're only talking about a $21,700 assessment that's being appealed. So the appeal is on parcel number 01022045000, and the assessed value by the tax assessor was $21,700.
Is that correct? Because where do you get the, excuse me, where does she get the new commercial improvements at $1.5 million for one and $899,000 for the next?
I don't know if y'all want to take a minute to review it so we can get accurate information to the Board of Review.
This was the new one that I got for 500. Well, let me get with her on that one, and then.
Yeah, if y'all want to just take a minute to exchange information. I want to get the right information to the Board of Review, because whatever's decided tonight is final from our perspective.
Sure.
And once again, Ms. Thibodeau can continue discussions and appraise it as she sees fit. She has the ability to change. This is just for this board to understand whether we're going to give a yea or a nay.
Right, which is why I'd like to keep it open, to keep those discussions going. But if you go to 896.
Okay, hold on one second. I have to finish with 4,500 and allow her to comment on 4,500. Just real quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Ms. Wendy, so we are specifically talking only about 4,500 right now.
On 4,500, what he's referring to is there was a building on this assessment, but we met on August 20th of 2020, and we discovered, he brought up the map, and we went through his appraisal, and he showed me where the building was, and it wasn't on this assessment, it was on another assessment, so we removed it from this assessment and only have land on this. A copy of that change, this assessment, this parcel listing that y'all have in y'all packet, the 21,000, was emailed to Kristen Cohen, the paralegal for Carver Darden Law Firm, on 8/20/2020. But this is only for saltwater marsh and miscellaneous lands. This is according to the state land map. Like, there is no veering from that. Like, it's 361 acres. The legal description says 361 acres. That's how they acquired this property. That's the legal description that was recorded in the clerk of court's office that I'm required by law to have on my records. And that's what 361 acres, 341 of it is saltwater marsh. That's determined by the state, not me. And then the 20 acres is the miscellaneous lands. That's in between, like, it's not full saltwater marsh, but it's not like country lots. So it's a kind of in-between category where it holds a little bit more market value, but not up to total market value.
Is everyone clear on that? Anybody got any questions on that one of Miss Wendy?
Like, you might have some soft spots in there, kind of, that's the best way I can explain it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Miss Wendy.
Okay.
Does anyone need any additional time to review that one? Good. Okay, so that brings us to item Q, written appeal from Pittman Ayers LLC and others. Assessment, tax bill number 0102195896. I apologize, but once again, if you don't mind, just state your name and your address for record for this item.
Glad to do it. Taylor Darden with the Carver Darden Law Firm, New Orleans, Louisiana. 596, again, is property that is owned by the 5 owners, which is Pittman Ayers LLC, Saul Ayers LLC, Rockmill Inc., Termico, and Constantine Land Company. It's a 65-acre tract. And it comprises of lots 3, 4, and 7 of Section 34, Township 21 South, Range 22 East in Lafourche Parish. The problem we have here, most of this land, or some of this land, this is the old Chevron facility, the old heliport down there. And we provided the council in the attachment of my letter to Ms. Thibodeau, there is a plat, and it shows a very small part of this tract, which comprised of the only improvement on this property, and that's the north end of the Chevron facility. And we call it Tract 1. So that's included in that. We know that that is being assessed. And the problem we have with it is that that's owned by the 5 individuals. Now, the rest of the assessment, which consists of about 6 acres, as I recall, the rest of the assessment in this is owned exclusively by the Pittman Ayers, Saul Ayers, Termico, and Rockmill. Constantine does not own the excess property, and yet they're being taxed on that particular outside property. They only own an in division with Pittman Ayers, what we call Tract 1. Now, the problem is I have to go to the other assessment because there's a dual assessment here. If you look at the assessment of the assessor in this case, it assesses those 5 owners with 100% ownership interest. If we go to the 300 assessment, they assess Constantine for a half interest in this particular piece of property. So there's a dual assessment here, or not a double assessment. 100% against all of us, 50% against Constantine just on Tract 1. So that's the problem we have with it. We have the same problem as we had with 500, lack of description on what is the particular piece of property that's located on this and where it is located. What is its age? This is an old facility. It's 30 some odd years old when Chevron built these things. We are the owners now of the property. It's all subject to lease. We think that, again, I have Mr. Truax here that can provide you with a value that he thinks that property should bear based upon the appraisal that he did of this property 2 years ago.
Very good. Anyone have any questions? Miss Wendy?
Okay. Like he said, this is the old Chevron facility. And where the issue, I'm going to clear up a couple of things for you. Where the issue is coming in is they have surveys according to lease maps. I am not allowed to change legal descriptions off of a lease map. I have made all of the parties aware that if they want me to change the legal description, which is right here, and it says legal description, this description, and you'll see a copy of they should have a copy of the transaction where they acquired it. back in here. It should be in here. From the clerk of court's office, where I got that legal description from. I get it from the clerk's office. If they want me to put these legal descriptions and separate them out into the 5 tracts off of the lease maps, according to the lease maps, they have to do a quick claim and file and do a redescription of property, naming it track 1, being this boundary, this boundary, this boundary. Until it gets recorded in the clerk of court's office, I cannot use it legally. As far as the ownership goes, that needs to be done with an abstract by a professional abstract, because just like he stated, this property was acquired in the 1800s. So you can imagine who owns it, who doesn't. He has names of owners that I can't find record where they acquired it. I don't know if they were leasing the property at some point and they thought they were owners or so forth, but I can't just take people off and put people on because somebody says it. It needs to be proven, and and the only way to do it with a property like this is from a professional abstract, and then from the abstract, they can do a quick claim deed by all of the parties signing it, and they agreeing to who owns what and how much percentage and what they want the legal descriptions to say. That's for the legal descriptions. As far as the land value and where we came up with the acres, this is their appraisal that they provided to me with the land in here, acre by acre, foot by foot, and this is where we got the numbers from for their land. Not the salt water, because that gets by the state. I'm talking about all of the other stuff. The details on the buildings themselves, he's saying that I don't provide that. Well, I didn't provide it. He provided that to me. That's how I came up, and I was able to use Marshall and Swift and come up with a value that you see on these parcel listings, is because I took the square footage, how old it was, and applied it to Marshall and Swift as recommended by the Louisiana Tax Commission, and that's where I came up with my values. The information I'm using is from him, down to where it says the properties are in average condition. I used average. I did it dollar for dollar, square foot by square foot off of his appraisal. So that's where I got the values for this land. I mean, for the buildings.
Anyone have any questions of Wendy? Jim?
So this, I don't want to say dispute, but these parcel numbers, this problem, this issue can be addressed just by what you explained?
He's an attorney. He can do a quick claim.
Okay. So that would solve most of this.
It needs an abstract. As far as the ownership goes, they really need to do an abstract, because it will determine who legally is an owner and how much the ownership is. But they have to give me that.
Can you advise, in the past, was it just, so obviously it's not the first time this has been assessed. How has it been in the past? Just, it wasn't contested?
The reason why it wasn't contested is because Chevron was leasing it. So the reason why this has become an issue is Chevron gave up the lease, and now they're paying the bill.
I got it.
See, before Chevron was paying the bill.
Understood. Okay, I'm just curious. Anyone else have any questions of Wendy? Okay, everybody done? Thank you, Wendy. That'll bring us to item R, written appeal from Constantine Land Trust, Assessments Tax Bill number 0102195300. Would you like to make some more comments on that one? I know you've already said it, but if you don't mind, state your name and address for the record one more time.
Again, Taylor Darden with the Carver Darden Law Firm in New Orleans. Just with respect, I'd like to have Mr. Truax address the valuation issue, as he's the one who prepared the assessment. Ms. Thibodeau apparently used all the information in the appraisal except the appraised value. So I'd like Mr. Truax to address that.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record.
Michael William Truax. I'm a real estate appraiser, and I did a complete appraisal of this property and some adjoining tracts as well. And now I'm speaking to the tax parcel that ends in 896. I think that the primary difference that I see in the assessment and relative to the site that I believe is addressed on this particular tax bill is that the improvement is does not have a fair market value anywhere close to what it's been assessed at. Now, I do, as a professional appraiser, do not rely on the cost approach to determine the value of properties, particularly in this submarket at this time. We use generally comparable sales information, which will produce a different estimate than if you applied a cost approach to value. And we had, as Ms. Wendy said, we provided a complete appraisal to her, which did provide the comparables that support the values that we had ascribed to the property. And also, the only substantial improvement on this property is a 5,657 square foot building that is 30 years old. And at the assessed value, that produces a improvement value of almost $100 a square foot. And that's not supported in the marketplace at all. The comparables reflect unit prices of $20 to $30 per square foot for buildings at this time, and that's probably high given the status of the oil and gas industry. Obviously, my estimate is substantially below the $552,000 that was ascribed in the assessment. With regard to the land, the appraisal we provided does not materially dispute the land value component that she provides under miscellaneous lands, which, as I understand it, is the developed part of the site. I think the appraisal produced an estimate of 11.43 acres, so it wasn't materially different. The only dispute I have with the value on the land is that the issue that Mr. Darden raised, that this is assessed at 100% of value, and the Pittman heirs only own 50% of it. So it would have to be, her land value should be reduced to the 50% level for the Pittman heir tax bill. But essentially, the value I would come up with for the improvement value contribution is about $120,000 instead of $552,000, which is substantially different. And that's based upon a contributory value for that building of about $30 per square foot.
Okay. And this is all in Port Fourchon, right, that we're talking about?
No.
Leeville.
Leeville.
Okay, so the whole highway. Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions? Okay, Miss Wendy?
Okay. What he used is the sales approach, and what I used is the cost approach. And the only real way to get the true value of this is to use all approaches, which would include the sales, the cost, and the income. And I told them that if they got an appraisal with all three approaches, there's a reason why they're leaving off the cost and the income approach, because these properties are being rented. They are being leased. So that factors into market value. The reason why the sales approach has the least amount of weight on it is because these are unique buildings. It's hard to find a building that is like this. That's why the tax commission recommends us to use the cost approach minus depreciation, which is exactly what I did. I couldn't figure out the income approach because I don't have any documentation with the income. If they would provide me with their financial statements on these properties, I would be more than happy to work up an income approach and do a combined of all three and come up with but the weighted value is going to be more on what is true, what is truly recommended for these types of properties.
And so this wasn't a targeted approach that you took. This is your standard you use for all the facilities.
This is according to the Louisiana Tax Commission guidelines, and it's Marshall and Swift, which is that goes across the country, not Louisiana even.
Okay, thank
and
you.
all of that's included in y'all's packets. The workup sheet for Marshall and Swift, that's in there. I included that on where I came up with those values for the properties. And all of the information on there is provided to me by that appraisal.
Okay, very good. I'll allow him to make another, you'd like to make additional comment? Yes, you absolutely can.
Yes, I would respectfully disagree with Ms. Wendy as to the proper basis for valuing, say, that improvement. And the improvement is not particularly unique. It's fairly standard for a service-type facility in the oil and gas areas. So it's pretty standard building, metal building, stilted up, pretty traditional service-type building that a Chevron or someone like them would have constructed. And frankly, the appraisers, we generally almost exclusively rely on the sales comparison approach, because when you do a cost approach, you can do what they call age-life depreciation. You say the building has a 30-year life. If you say it has an effective age of 15, then your depreciation is 50%. But that's generally just about the physical component. It doesn't take into account the economic aspect. And there's another form of depreciation called external depreciation or economic, which relates to the world we live in now in the oil and gas sector, which is that it's taken a huge hit that has nothing to do with the physical characteristics of the building. It has to do with the economics of that industry. So the cost approach, it's very difficult to adequately reflect all of those elements when you rely on the cost approach to value. That's why we go to the sales comparison approach. And frankly, we don't even do a cost approach on these kinds of facilities any longer because the disparity is so great in the value that you can actually get if you try to sell those properties. And fair market value is that. It's what a willing buyer and a willing seller will agree to in the marketplace at this time. That is the definition of that. And I believe that's what the Constitution calls for us, for the assessment to be based upon, which is fair market value.
Thank you, sir. Any last comments on this item?
Chairman Hookton?
Yes, sir.
One thing, I'd like to, again, keep the option open to continue our discussions with Ms. Thibodeau to get this thing resolved. Just make that part of the record.
Absolutely. And she has stated that that is absolutely allowable. Tonight, there will be either an approval of the appeal or a denial of the appeal, but that does not stop the interaction you can with the assessor to continue to get it right.
Okay,
is that correct, Wendy?
We have
Yes.
additional information on the income side, which again demonstrates that the property is well over assessed. Fine, thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, with that said, we'll move to item S. Written appeal from White Fleet Marine LLC, assessment tax bill number 21033999573. If you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record, sir.
Hello, my name is Bob Stephanie. I'm with the law firm of King and Juergens in New Orleans. I understand you have to take these items one at a time, but S&T are both White Fleet Marine appeals. I'm going to address, the issues are identical, and what they involve are assessments of vessels that at the time of assessment were located on January 1 of this year, were located 17 miles offshore at South Timberlake 37 on a federal oil rig, a federal lease on an oil rig. According to the statute that deals with assessment of vessels, the assessment is supposed to be made as of events as they are on January 1. Now, admittedly, I think this assessment may have been may have been sent off on the wrong foot by White Fleet submitting lat forms that had the incorrect positions of the vessels. One vessel was indicated to have been actually in Port Fourchon. The other one was indicated to be at a different rig. On September 4th, I submitted a letter, which is part of your record, which shows that according to the logs of the vessels, they were actually both at a rig at South Timberlake 37. After submitting this letter to Ms. Thibodeau, I was contacted by Gerald Block, who indicated he was the counsel to the assessor. He asked me to provide the lease number and the names of the rigs, which I did, and I provided those to him. He subsequently called me back and said, again, he seemed to still think that the vessels were at the positions indicated in the lat forms that were originally submitted that had the incorrect information. So I sent him those positions, and actually yesterday, and provided him with these Botrax position information, which actually shows where these two vessels were, which I would like to add to supplement the record, provide to the council as part of the record on appeal. I provided them to Mr. Block yesterday. They weren't attached to my original letter of appeal because they weren't available at that time, but I do have them, would like to offer those.
Yes, I'm sorry. They're in yours, a copy of that? Okay, so we have a copy of it.
Oh, you do have it?
She's already given us a copy, yes, sir.
Okay, great. Then, so our position is that both of these vessels, and if I need to go by specific assessment, I think the first one that we're talking about now is the watercraft J.B. Foster. That's the 9573. The other one in the following item in the 9574 is the vessel ML Grove. What I'm saying applies to both of these vessels. They were both at the same location. They were out of the jurisdiction, and they should not have been included on the rolls. And, you know, I certainly think that I was in conversations with Mr. Block and would certainly continue those conversations after today. But I do want to lodge the appeal to preserve our rights and maintain our position that the vessel should be removed from the rolls entirely.
Okay, anyone have any questions? Mr. Grove?
So boat tracks is like a GPS-based thing?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no way of faking that, or keying in something wrong because it's like a picture. Is that
Right,
correct?
it's taken off of some computer GPS data, you know, tracking of the vessel. And if you look at it, it shows, you know, slight movements of the vessel. They were maintaining station, but they're staying, and no, you can't fake that. That's where the vessel was.
And the error was a key punch error? That they
The error
initially
was
sent?
whoever filled out the lat forms, I don't know whether they looked at the wrong vessel or what they did, but they were clearly wrong based on the logs, based on this information that I've just provided you.
Yeah.
And I provided updated lat forms on September 4th, which had the correct locations. They were just misstated, and then it's unfortunate, but that's what happened.
Thank you.
I wouldn't
Any
have ever
follow-up, Mr.
used
Grove?
anything but boat tracks, so Wendy, are you gonna address? Okay, I'll wait for her.
Any else? Okay, thank you, sir, appreciate it. Ms. Wendy?
Don't we only use boat tracks?
Good.
Ship tracks, all right, same
The
thing?
port uses Port Vision. It's all the same GPS coordinates. And what he's saying is correct. But the difference is where the vessel was located, whether it was on this rig or that rig, was irrelevant. What he's saying is that the vessel is outside of the 3-mile marker and that he shouldn't be taxed at all. That means that I would have to remove 816 other vessels. Don't you think that they would all go 3 miles offshore and not pay taxes? This all goes down to the constitutionality of the ad valorem taxation on watercraft vessels. It's not about a valuation. You understand? It's about the constitutionality of it, which should be in a courtroom, not here. Wrong arena.
Yes. So this is the discussion we've had over the years where
same
everybody
thing.
could just take their boats and go into federal waters and not pay any
And this
taxes
is it.
anywhere. Yeah.
The law says that I have to put everything on the roll. This is the 5 pages of exemptions, and they don't qualify for any of these exemptions. And this is the same argument that I go up to Baton Rouge every year with senators and representatives about that vessels need an exemption. They try and put an exemption on the ballot every so many years to exempt watercraft, and that's what this is. And the reason why they go up to Baton Rouge and ask for an exemption is because it is taxable. If it truly wasn't taxable, they wouldn't need an exemption. They would already have it. So that's what this is. This is about the constitutionality, not the value, unless I'm mistaken, but that's my assumption after everything he has submitted. So it doesn't matter whether it was on South Timberlea at 37 or 52, it doesn't matter. It's all in Lafourche waters, you know, and so.
Thank you, Ms. Wendy.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Bob.
I think the reason an exemption is being requested is because vessels that don't believe they should be taxed are being taxed. So there's a disagreement over the interpretation of the statute. The statute is clear that it's supposed to be events as they are as of January 1. But even aside from that, if you look at the lat forms for these vessels, you see that they're spending 340, 330 days a year outside of the jurisdiction. They're working, and they're not just, when this vessel was outside the jurisdiction on January 1, it was 17 miles south of Sea Terminal. So it was well beyond the 3-mile limit. It was in federal waters. So I just wanted to clarify the record on that point.
Thank you, Mr. Bob.
Thank you. And I would just say for the next item, I would just reiterate, if you'd like to call me back up, I will, but.
I think we all get it. This is the same
Okay.
argument. Yes,
It's the
sir.
same argument.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. Okay, with that said, we'll go to item T, written appeal from White Fleet Marine LLC, assessment tax bill number 21033999574. Same argument. Ms. Wendy, you have anything additional to add to that? Same argument. Thank you. Okay, with that said, I do have two appeals that came in very late, as seems everything this year. And the first one is going to be Halliburton Energy Services, assessment number 11032849555. And with that said, do we have, I don't have a, well, yeah, that would be tax bill number. Is anyone here from Halliburton Energy Services to address? Here we go. Okay, so no one's here to discuss from their part. So I don't have any information that I see here that they wanted me to read. So, Ms. Wendy, do you want to come up here and comment as to what's going on with this one? If you don't mind, I mean, I have nothing additional to offer, they're just appealing it. So, and you have the packet in front of you.
Yes.
If you'd like to make a comment, if not, we'll move on to the next one.
No, Halliburton, all it was is, let's see, they never, this is all I got, just like you got, that's what I got. No obsolescence was ever requested. I got the appeal. I have no idea. I'm assuming that they want obsolescence, but I'm not sure. I really don't know why they're asking for a decrease.
Okay.
Everything I got is according to what they submitted to me. I went and looked. They actually had a slight decrease, and that's why I'm thinking they wanted obsolescence, but I need that officially in writing. I can't just lower it.
Understood. This is the one that's a 6.19% increase,
Yeah.
so it's pretty modest. Thank you, Wendy. With that said, we also have another one from the floor, and I don't even know if you have this information because it's really unorganized, but it says Board of Review protest from the floor from Dollar General Store number 02197. If I flip, I see under the appeal, it states assessment tax bill number 1023175. And I don't see the date on when this was submitted, but obviously we just got it. Is anyone here from Dollar General for this appeal to comment? So you have the floor, Ms. Wendy.
I apologize, but I didn't know if y'all were going to amend it onto the agenda or not. That's why they weren't in the packet, because I didn't want to confuse anybody. But does everybody have their packet? With Dollar General, they closed in March of 2019. And remember, what is reflected in the 2020 is what took place in 2019. They closed in March of 2019, and what this is the inventory that was still in Lafourche Parish for January and February. And that's all this is.
Very good. Anyone have any questions of Ms. Wendy? And this was, so normally we don't go this route, but the district attorney's office advised us to accept them this year because of the uncanny circumstances.
It's just a precedent. I don't, like, this wasn't that difficult. Dollar General was not, it was 2 months of inventory. It didn't require me a whole lot of research and defense on this, but like, I just don't want to set up precedents that it comes in a couple hours before I show up here.
Understood, and I 100% agree. Okay, very good. With that said, I would like to now entertain a motion to close public hearing as the Board of Review. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Perillo. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 9 yeas. Okay. So now I have to go back over each one of these, and because this brings us to number 4, approve or deny any protest, receive and submit results to Louisiana Tax Commission. So what I will do is I will entertain a motion either to deny or approve each protest. So first off, I'll move to item A, written appeal from Resource Rig Supply Incorporated, assessment tax bill number 11032845051. I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Melvin to deny or approve. I need a motion to deny or approve from somebody on each one of these items. To deny. So I got a motion on the floor to deny this appeal by Mr. Melvin, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion by the council? Any further discussion? There's none. All in favor signify by saying aye. To deny? Any opposed? So 2 nays. So we have a vote of 7 yeas to deny and 2 nays to approve. So denied. We're clear on that, Ms. Corleen? I'm sorry, Mr. Perilou and Ms. Boudreau. Okay. Moves us to item B, written appeal from Abbey Glen Limited Partnership Assessment Tax Bill Number 0052810504. I entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve the appeal by this group. Is that your motion? Can I get a second? Second by Ms. Boudreau. Anybody has any discussion? There be none. All in favor of approving this appeal, say aye. Aye. All that are against approving this appeal, say aye or nay. Nay. Will all the nays please raise your hand? Okay, so the option of approval fails, and it is also denied by a vote of 2 in favor of approving the appeal, those being Mr. Perilou and Ms. Boudreau, and 7 to deny the appeal. You got that, Ms. Corleen? It's a little confusing here, but all right, this brings us to item C. Written appeal from S2 Energy Operating Assessment Tax Bill Number 3103325300. I'll entertain a motion from the floor. Anyone motion? Motion to approve the appeal by Mr. Perilou. Second. Can I get a second? Second by Ms. Boudreau. This is to approve the appeal. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed to approving the appeal? Nay. Nays, raise your hand. So the motion to approve fails by a vote of 2 yeas and 7 nays. The 2 that were in favor of approving were Mr. Perilou and Ms. Boudreau. So denied. Got it, Ms. Corleen? Yeah. All right. Item D was pulled. Moves us to item E. Written appeal from Canium LLC, Assessment Tax Bill Number 3103327904. I'll entertain a motion. Somebody give me a motion, either approve or deny. Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Wendell to deny. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Adams. All in favor of deny, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Nays, raise your hand. Mr. Perilou. So the motion to deny is approved by a vote of 8 yeas, 1 nay, that nay being Mr. Boudreau. I mean, Mr. Perilou. Got it, Ms. Corleen? Got it. All right. So we are now at item P, because all other ones were removed. Whew. Okay, item P, written appeal from Pittman Ayers LLC and others, assessment tax bill number 0102204500. Entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Perilou to approve the appeal. Second. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Adams. So we'll move it to a vote. Those in favor of approving the appeal signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are against say nay. Nays, please raise your hand. So the motion to approve the appeal fails by a vote of 1 yea and 8 nays. So that motion also, that appeal is also denied. The 1 nay being Mr. Perilou, Ms. Carleen. Item Q, written appeal from Pittman Ayers LLC and others, assessment tax bill number 0102195896. Got a motion to approve by Mr. Perilou, second by Mr. Wendell. We'll move it to a vote. All in favor to approve the appeal signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are against say nay. Who voted to approve? 1? Make sure I'm clear on that. So the motion to approve the appeal is denied by a vote of 8 to 1. The one in favor of the appeal was Mr. Perilou. Item R, written appeal from Constantine Land Trust, assessment tax bill number 0102195300. Move to approve by Mr. Perilou, second by Mr. Wendell. All in favor of approving the appeal signify by saying aye. Aye. All against approving the appeal signify by saying nay. The motion fails on the appeal by a vote of 8-1. The only one in favor of this appeal being Mr. Perillo. So this one also is denied. Got all that, Ms. Carleen? Item S, written appeal from White Fleet Marine LLC, assessment tax bill number 2103399-573. Moved by Mr. Perillo to deny, second by Mr. Wendell. All in favor of denying, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0, denied. Item T, written appeal from White Fleet Marine LLC, assessment tax bill number 2103399-574. Moved to deny by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Perillo. All in favor of denying, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Motion passes with 9-0, so this one is also denied. Okay, now we have the ones from the floor, which I'll have to go back to my paperwork to. Yes. So the first one is going to be Halliburton Energy Services, assessment number 11032844955. Can I have a motion to? A motion to deny by Mr. Wendell, second by Ms. Boudreaux. All in favor of deny, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0 to deny. Last one, and I'm going to have to flip through the pages to pull the assessment number. So this is Dollar General Store assessment tax bill number 10231758811. Motion on the floor by Mr. Wendell to deny, second by Ms. Boudreaux. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 9-0 to deny. So all of the appeals were denied, Ms. Carleen, although they were not all unanimous. Everyone in the audience, as was stated earlier, you are absolutely can continue the dialogue with the assessor's office beyond that. Good? Okay. I'm glad we only do this once a year. With that said, I will now have to entertain a motion to return to regular agenda, which is item H. So I got a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams, that we return to regular agenda, which is at item H. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item H, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I got a motion by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Perillo to open public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0 to open public hearing. Item 5, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-029 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget to increase the budget for the CSBG FY 2020 CARES Act money in the amount of $355,635 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this ordinance? One time? 2 times? Anyone from the public? 3 times? Anyone from the council? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 6, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-030 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to deobligate the Eclair Pump Project 17003 and create a drainage project in District Number 1, 20027, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this? 1 time. 2 times. Anyone from the public on ordinance number 6? 3 times. Anyone from the council? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 7, ordinance amending and reenacting Chapter 8, Animals and Fowl of the Code of Ordinances as it pertains to Lafourche Parish Animal Shelter and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on ordinance number 7? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Anyone from the council? Mr. Grove.
I just had a quick question while we went down on adoption of the animals cut in half. Do you know?
Mr. President, would you like to answer that?
Heavy on
I'm going to defer to our wonderful animal shelter manager.
And I saw she was in the audience, so Ms. Hillary, can you please
Hillary,
take the
yes, I
mic,
gotta ask a question.
if you would be so inclined?
That was the only thing that jumped out at me, really. Just
Thank you, Hillary.
No problem. Hillary Detillier, 120 Catherine Street, Lockport, Louisiana. We just going down on the adoption fee for cats, just to be able to stay in competition with some of the other animal shelters in the area. We had recently waived our adoption fees for the past several months due to COVID, and we saw a huge jump in the number of cats being adopted. So that's why we're gonna go ahead and cut the adoption fee down, just to try to move any barriers from people who want to adopt cats.
That's great.
Are you having issues with dogs at the $100?
No.
Okay.
No,
All right.
people, I
Good.
mean, and the dogs move quickly. It's the cats that just back up.
Very good. Thank you very much, Hillary. We appreciate that. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Jones, seconded by Mr. Wendell, to close public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item I, proposed ordinances. Mr. Melvin.
Thank you, sir. Number 8, proposed ordinance to rescind ordinance number 5993 and 6108 as it pertains to parking on West 212th Street, Galliano, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 9, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, moved by Mr. Lorraine. Number 9, proposed ordinance establishing a no parking fire lane on both sides of West 212th Street, Galliano, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 9, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, installing the necessary no parking fire lane signs and providing penalties for the violations thereof, by Mr. Lorraine. Number 10, proposed ordinance approving an act of donation between the Department of Transportation and Development and the Lafourche Parish Government for the donation of reclaimed asphalt pavement, RAP, state project number H.013225. Again, that is H.013225. And authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said documentation and any and all relevant documents, moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration. Proposed ordinance providing for the 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-031 within the 2020 operation maintenance budget and capital outlay budget for the purchase of a Polaris ATV to be utilized in the CZM department, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Mr. Jones for the administration. Number 12, proposed ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-032 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget for the repairs to the Landry Lane Bridge, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Mr. Adams for the administration. Number 13, proposed ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-033 within the 2020 operation and maintenance budget to adjust the recreation districts by revenue received for 2020, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Mr. Jones for the administration. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Melvin. Everything was good on that, Ms. Corleen? Okay, very good. We'll move to item J, resolutions. Item 14, resolution approving the appointment of Paul Chiquette to the Lafourche Parish Community Action Advisory Board, Low Income Sector, by Mr. Jones. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion by the council? Mr. Grove.
Why are we approving somebody that it was through an election like 2018, and then, then they approved it at their meeting in June in 2018? That's some time.
Mr. Jones, you got the answer for that?
Mr. Chairman, in 2018 was the election at the South Lafourche Library where they do commodities. It's just that the past administration was up in the air and they never had it ratified as a resolution. So
This should have come a long time ago.
this should have came,
Okay.
yeah. And it was happening April of 2018.
How long is the term for low income?
5 years.
5 years, okay, so he's 2 years into it already. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Chiquette. Item 15, resolution appointing one member on the Coastal Zone Management Advisory Board. Mr. Wendell, will you please give someone for that on my behalf of the administration?
We have one vacancy with one application, Mr. Donald Lafourche.
Mr. Lafourche, can I get a second? Second by Ms. Boudreau. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 16, resolution appointing one member to the Recreation District Number 5 Board. Mr. Adams for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Adams?
I have Ben Gilliard, but I also want to say there's 4 more openings, so I need some more people to volunteer and step up.
We're glad to see this first one get rolling. We got a second on the floor for Mr. Guillaud by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Guillaud, for stepping up. Item 17, resolution reappointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 3 Board representing the town of Golden Meadow. Mr. Lorraine for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Lorraine?
Mr. Morris Goodry.
Mr. Guidry continues his service. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Window. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 18, resolution appointing one member to Lafourche Parish Communications District Board. Mr. Grove for the administration. Who do you got, Mr. Grove?
Jacques Thibodeau.
Mr. Thibodeau. I got a second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 19, resolution appointing one member to the Sewers District Number 1 Board. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Carrie LaPerouse.
Mr. LaPerouse, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 20, resolution accepting the low quote of BET Construction Incorporated in the amount of $101,865 for the Raceland Recreation Concession Stand upgrades and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Pearl for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 21, resolution amending resolution number 20-237 that accepted the culvert, metal, concrete, and plastic bids for the time period of September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Pearl for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? For the record, Mr. Melvin stepped out at 19:15. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to let you guys know, and I know we put this in the agenda summary, our purchasing group actually threw out an entire culvert bid instead of just the part that they messed up on because we piecemeal the culverts out. You may bid on concrete but not plastic, and we inadvertently threw the entire bid out. So we're making that right. We went back in and adjusted all the pricing and amending this to actually fit the low bidder, somebody who we shouldn't have thrown out to begin with.
Understood. Any further discussion? Okay. So with that said, if there's no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion will pass with 7 yeas, one person stepping out of the room being Mr. Melvin, and one abstention being Mr. Grove. So the motion passes. Got it, Ms. Carleen? All right. Item 22, resolution approving an ongoing investment consulting agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Gallagher Fiduciary Advisors, LLC, to administer the Parish 457B Deferred Compensation Plan and provide investment and retirement plan consulting services, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I know we put this in the agenda summary that we sent you guys out last week. But just as we've done with health insurance and a couple of the other larger contracts, we open this up. We have been, and I think Retirement Benefit Plan Advisors sent most of you guys an email. They have been our provider for about 20 years. So we came in, we pulled up the plan, and started to ask some questions, decided to open it up through a competitive RFP process. And it wasn't until we did that our current provider actually decided to sharpen his pencil and get us some better fees and some better rates. And that raises a lot of red flags for me, that if you did it finally when you thought you were going to lose the contract, why haven't you done it for all these years? It makes me wonder about if he truly has the best interest of our employees and us as the client at heart. So in the effort of full disclosure, and again, I put this in the summary email. We had two firms that we were looking at their RFPs. One was our current provider, and one was a provider for Nationwide. We went through the process. It was reviewed by Gallagher, but it wasn't a full review. We never issued a contract to Gallagher, never paid them for any sort of review. They basically gave us some questions that they thought we should ask in looking at basis points and rate of returns and things like that. We decided to go with the Nationwide company. We did find out later that one of the partners with that firm was a campaign contributor of mine, and therefore by SEC rule, he could not be a provider to us for a 2-year period. So we scaled back, went back to Gallagher because they are an additional nationwide provider, and said, look, can you match these rates, the rate of returns, lower fees, better job for our employees, and they said they could. And that's why we ultimately decided to go with Gallagher on this versus our current plan provider.
Excellent. Anyone else have any questions of the parish president or any further discussion on this item? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 stepped out the room, being Mr. Melvin. Item 23, resolution certifying to the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development that we, Lafourche Parish Government, have and will continue to comply with all FHWA DOTD requirements regarding performance of interim inspections calculating the load carrying capacity and load posting deficient bridges under their jurisdiction for 2020, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Is this something that's required by DOTD, Mr. President?
Yeah, it is. We do it typically every couple of years just to tell them that we're going to follow the rules.
Okay, I don't recall this one, that's why I asked. No problem. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, and Mr. Melvin continued to be out the room. Item 24, resolution appointing 5 members to the Industrial Development Board of the Parish of Lafourche Incorporated. Mr. Adams for the administration, please name your 5 members. Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I'll take this off. All right, so I have Ben Bordelon, Milena Bruce, Chet Chasson, Marguerite Knight, and Dan Duplantis Jr.
Can I get that's Dan Duplantis Jr.? Can I get a second? I got a second by Mr. Grove. Any discussion? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you guys actually created the Industrial Development Board a couple of weeks ago by ordinance. It is a 6-member board. We are still waiting on 1 member to be nominated by Dr. Kloon from Nicholls State University. So when we looked at this, we looked at the spectrum of the parish. So you have somebody representing the port, somebody representing agriculture, somebody representing big business, somebody representing a real estate market. So what this board is going to do, and as we've told you guys, we are working through a tax incentive program with an employer in Bayou Blue. This board will help us do that in any future tax incentive programs that we would work on for businesses. We do realize that in some cases, one of these business owners may be a part of that, so they'll recuse themselves from that discussions, and there are protocols set in place for that. But moreover, I want to thank these 5 individuals for stepping up and wanting to serve on this. Most of these guys are very busy, and we appreciate their service on this board.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, from what you're saying and what's written in here is very vague, what's written in here. I know there was a previous council formed the Home Rule Charter Committee that never went anywhere. So I hope this don't fall like that.
No, so the appointment language is very vague. If you read the ordinance that actually created the IDB, it very clearly spells out what their jurisdiction is going to be and what they're going to be responsible for. They're going to have to meet at least once a quarter by that ordinance. We do anticipate, as we start to do this deal with the business in Bayou Blue and any future ones, they're going to be meeting on a substantially monthly basis to try to do some of this work with us.
So this is just mainly a board, nothing, no commission, nothing like that?
No.
But it is a requirement.
It is a requirement, yes.
We have to have this board.
Okay, I mean, I just think the way it's put on the resolution is very vague.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Any further discussion? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and Mr. Melvin out of the room. Item 25, resolution supporting the submittal of a 2020 Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program application to the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Mr. Wendell will move on my behalf of the administration. Got a second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and Mr. Melvin being out the room. Item 26, resolution of supporting the submittal of a 2020 Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant Program application to the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Mr. Wendell will move on my behalf of the administration. Second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? We are on item 26. No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and Mr. Melvin out of the room. Item 27, resolution approving amendment number 3 to the agreement between Tyler Technologies Incorporated and Lafourche Parish Government for Munis Offsite Software as a Service SaaS hosting, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any other relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Let the record reflect at 19:23, Mr. Melvin has returned to the room. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 28, resolution approving amendment number 2 to the agreement between Tyler Technologies Incorporated and Lafourche Parish Government for Tyler Transparency, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item 29, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Lafourche Parish Government and Louisiana's Cajun Bayou to provide funding to increase tourism, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? Mr. President.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, I just want to commend Timothy Bush, who's their president and CEO, for stepping up and meeting with us. I think the partnership between us and the Tourist Commission has been something that has been overlooked for a lot of years. And there's a lot of ways that we can partner and increase tourism, which in turn increases tax revenue to us as local governments through sales taxes, occupancy rates, and things like that. So I'm very excited that we're finally partnering. We're doing a lot of different discussions to help increase some traction at the market. So I think you're going to see a lot more of these CAs coming through between us and them. Not so much on a funding perspective per se as this one is, that we're going to help increase some media and TV stuff, but just some cooperation between the two agencies.
Excellent. And look, I've engaged Mr. Bush over time too, and I'd love to see a bigger effort in promoting our regional fairs and festivals. Mr. Grove.
Yeah, I was just gonna, Mr. Bush came, I think it was our last meeting, and I think he's got another award, national award, I think, since then. My question is just, where do we come up with like $27,000? Is there something that we're trying to do with? Is that a figure that we getting in some kind of trade magazine and some billboard? I just don't know, because he does a good job before. I mean, he played the videos, the stuff he does is phenomenal.
Yeah, so a lot of this, that 27 is going to be our share, mostly of some TV advertising for some of those commercials on a national market. There have been some figures that we're going to be able to hit somewhere upwards of about 500,000 people at a time. Some of it's going to be using HTV, some of it's going to be using some other national markets. So most of it's going to go to some TV advertising.
Very good. No further discussion? Okay, we'll move this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 9-0. Item K, Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, or Managers Report Presentations and or updates. We'll start with number 30, Finance Representative to present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed upon procedures for August 2020. Ms. Renee?
Okay, we're going to start off with royalty. We have the first and the second quarter reported. Both, as you can see up on the screen, the first quarter is still showing that it was higher than the first in 2019. The second quarter is showing below. We have not received the full amount for the third quarter. Year to date, we've received $58,454.68. So probably next month I will update those, because by that time we got the September number. Okay, so road sales tax District A. The second quarter is showing an increase of $130,813.05. A 12.06 percentage of an increase compared to 2019. Road sales tax District 2, there is a decrease of $94,874.86 with a 15.84% comparison to 2019. It's lower. Solid waste. The amount that shows a decrease of $37,113.09, a 2.11 percent compared to the second quarter of 2019. Parish transportation, our third quarter is in comparison to 2019. We have received, we have not received the full quarter for the third quarter. We've only received the revenue of July and August. And the total to date for the third quarter is $123,658.99. Once again, that will be updated at a later date. This is drainage. I'm going to show you in the next few slides the major funds that the auditors let us know that these were the new totals for, those are the major funds for 2020. And as you can see in in drainage, we're showing a deficit of $841,946.12. And that's only because we have not started receiving our revenue in for our property taxes. So those numbers will change starting in January, February. But for right now, through the end of the year, you're going to see it in the red in comparison to the expense amount. So we're using our fund balances from previous years to cover those deficits. Okay, the next item up is, that's drainage. I'm sorry, that was the general fund. I apologize. Drainage. Once again, we're using prior year fund balance for that. We're showing right now at a $1,000,008 as a deficit for drainage until our ad valorem taxes come in at the beginning of the year. The library is showing a positive fund balance of about $11 million. Solid waste is operating also as a deficit of $18,000. Royalty at this point is operating in a positive balance at a $3.8 million. And here's a recap. In the third quarter of 2020, LPG received July and August total of $58,454.68. Year-to-date royalty has brought in $977,088.65. Road Sales Tax District A, it has showed a decrease increase as I had mentioned in an earlier slide. It received a year-to-date is $2,318,080.31. Road Sales Tax District 2 showed a decrease and has received $1.1 million, $1,170,385.40. I need to use my eyeglasses when I come up here the next time. Solid waste in 2020, the second quarter shows a decrease of $37,113.09. Parish transportation, once again, we have only received July and August, not the full quarter, and we have received $412,090.88. Our general fund collection, the deficit in the general fund is $841,946.12. Drainage, also operating in the deficit, is $1,892,380.82. The library is operating in a positive balance of $11,160,646.98. Our solid waste is operating at a deficit of $18,274.97. And royalty has a positive fund balance of $3,801,776.48. Thank you, and do anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Renita. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Renita? None. Thank you very much for that summarization, Renita. Mr. President, you got any other reports?
No, Mr. Chairman, just real quick, I want to thank Renita and her staff in finance. We should have the budget binders to you guys by the middle of next week. And popular to contrary belief, Thibaut, we are not broke. We're gonna be able to accomplish just about all of the capital projects that you guys requested in your wish list, as well as some additional things that we wanted to accomplish. and we're still gonna be able to manage some pretty healthy fund balances next year. So I think we're off to a good track. And just a reminder for the public, anyone wishing to come 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, we are gonna be cutting the ribbon on the community center. So thank you, Nooney, for all the help with that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start on this end. Mr. Lorraine, we'll move to item L, discussion. Any final comments? Ms. Boudreaux? Mr. Perillo, go ahead. You have the floor.
Yes, I have an announcement to make tonight. Tonight's probably the last time you'll see me sitting in this chair as a councilman. I'm about to submit my resignation. I've accepted a position with the federal government, and of course, with the Hatch Act, it prevents federal employees from participating in the political process. That being said, not only am I resigning, we're moving to Colorado for my new job. So we're gone. You know, we're doing this for the family, for the benefit of my family. I want to thank everyone personally that supported me, that's voted for me for this position. It means a lot to me that you entrusted me with your trust to serve you, and I'll be forever grateful for that opportunity. So with that said, thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure serving with each and every one of you. Same phone number. You know, I'm a call away if ever you guys need anything from me. So thanks.
Thank you, Corey. Mr. Wendell?
Mr. Perillo, it's been an honor to serve with you. I plan on moving to the border and taking over both districts. That's all I have.
Mr. Melvin?
Yes, I'd just like to tell Corey thank you. It's been a short time in government, but just a huge, great thing to be serving with you, and we dearly, dearly going to miss you.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin.
Be safe.
Mr. Grove?
I'd like to echo that. Corey did a hell of a job. You know, I know you represented you guys well, you people well. You fought hard for recreation, created a lot of these things with the outstanding citizen. So you've done a good job in these long 4.5 years, I guess it would be now. So, but it's been a pleasure. So I wish you well and your family.
Mr. Adams? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, Corey, just wish you and your family well on your new endeavor. We're going to miss you on this council. You've worked well together the last 4 years, and don't forget, you moved to Colorado. Think about my phone number for fresh shrimp.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, and I'll say the same thing, Corey. Is you know, been a dear friend, and I'm certainly going to miss you as a colleague on the council. And we certainly look forward to you returning back to the bayou someday with your family. So we're certainly going to miss you, but we'll stay in contact. Hopefully go up there and visit you. Next announcement I have is we did, based on the governor's latest phase, we did cancel, the Lafourche Festival Association did cancel the Fête de Vieton, which was scheduled for this weekend. Second festival I've been involved with that I've had to cancel. It's going to be really tough on nonprofits to continue to pay their bills and their structures. So hopefully we'll start getting some relief soon, and I know others on this council as well have some big nonprofits that they support. With that said, the last item I want to present to the council to see if y'all want to take action is, did receive a letter, August 26th. The Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office is going to be imposing about a 16.7% increase in the costs for the deputy that we have during our nights. So I wanted to perhaps entertain a motion. I know we started this a few years ago. You know, do we discontinue it? Do we continue it? It's a pretty hefty increase. It's still overall not a whole lot of money, but is there really a need at this point? You know, and I don't know that there is. So I would just want to open that up for discussion. My recommendation is I think we could do without it. That's my thoughts. But to cancel it, I would like to entertain a motion from someone. Anyone wants to discuss that? Anyone wants to mention? No one wants to move on that? Want to keep Ms. Boudreaux?
Yeah, I'd like to just comment on it. I feel like, I understand why it was moved in the first place to have an officer here in our meetings. Considering where we are today, I just feel like it would be better and in our best interest to have an officer present when dealing with the public. That's just my opinion.
Very good. I thank you for that information. Mr. Melvin?
Yeah, look, you know, you want to trust but verify, and we want to see the goodness in all people. Here's my deal. I'm a strong non-believer in gun-free zones because it makes everybody a sitting duck. And if we can't, or somebody can't legally carry, which I understand is government, it's a different world, I think somebody needs to be armed, and I'd like it to be a good guy, because I don't want to be a sitting duck.
Very good. So it sounds like we're continue. So the rate, the 16+% increase will go into effect October 1st. So that will continue, just so everyone will be aware. With that said, I have nothing else to add. So I'll entertain a motion under item N for adjournment. So moved by Mr. Perillo, second by Mr. Wendell, that we go ahead, because there's no further business.